Uh, when we had a conversation last week or 2 weeks ago, you mentioned that you want your podcast to reflect a Pan-African flavor. Okay. Good. I hear a lot of young Africans express the Pan-African vision. Okay. But I'm not sure they themselves embrace the idea in reality. Okay. Because I tell you, I communicate with a lot of young Africans from across the continent. And yes, they say they speak the word Pan-Africa all the time. But I don't really see it. I don't see that Pan-African vision in their actions. Okay. So what's your Pan-African vision, and are you taking action to make it a reality?
Okay. I think that's a very good question. Like you say, a lot of people do a lot of talk. I think that Pan-Africanism is an essentially good thing, especially in our world of economic blocks, right?
Okay.
The reason why the UK right now is struggling, and you know this, right, is even though as great as the UK, as great as the Great Britain is, they are struggling out of an economic bloc as great as the UK is. The reason is there is strength in numbers. There is just strength in numbers. And we have a shared commonality of history, of ancestry that embraces us to come together to build our stance in the world, because we have for a very long time been marginalized, been victimized. But to your question, I think that thinking Pan-African things about embracing African identity and being unapologetic about it, but more also in your actions, it's about having a vision that transcends your country and having a vision that embraces the continent at scale. For example, I try as much as possible, even though like we discussed that there is an affinity of people in Ghana to want to come to my podcast, but I try as much as possible to get different views, because the people in Ghana, they've already communicated with so many Ghanaians, they need to know what other people think, right? Is the intersection of other cultures and the unism to a point in those things that helps us to come together. So that's a little step, at least I am taking my podcast to make sure that I bring an intersection of diverse African thoughts and truly stay African in that mindset and framework, because there are a lot of people who have gotten in touch with me and said, I want to come on your podcast. And those people were not Africans, they were white people. And I'm like, yes, what you are doing is great, but it doesn't serve the vision that I have. And yes, I don't have the biggest platform in the podcast in the world. And probably your story and your company or your whatever you're doing will give me traction. But as far as I'm concerned, I would take the vision that I have over whatever benefits that your audience could give to me. And so that's like a small step I'm taking. But I like to take a certain framework of Kwame Nkrumah, right? Which people, Kwame Nkrumah, Muammar Gaddafi, which people at a point came to hate. But to be truly Pan-African means to be wanting more for the African continent. And that means that to be ambitious beyond your country, right? And because we are so much tied into nationality sometimes, we see that as a threat. But we need people who are strong and confident enough to want to aspire to that African vision, right? And those people, when you see them, you are like, maybe these people are crazy. Like how, it turned out for Gaddafi, for example. But those are people who are really bold to move beyond we want a Pan-African Africa, we want a united Africa, we want an economic bloc, blah, 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 and actually going forward bringing countries together. But it always turns out as if that those people have an intent to rule other people. But we need people who are saying that I want to drive innovation across the continent, because we have big blocks like Nigeria, at least when it comes to population, right? If Nigeria could fix itself politically, it behoves on Nigeria in a Pan-African framework to hold Malawi, even though Malawi is not in West Africa, to hold Sudan, to bring those people along with them, because that's what Kwame Nkrumah did when he gained independence. Between the time 1957 to 1965, before Nkrumah died, the number of countries that gained independence was as a result of the wave of Kwame Nkrumah's activism, brought Guinea, brought Senegal, and inspired other countries like Nigeria to move forward and get independence. So that's what I think it's all about. And it takes audacity and to move beyond the thinking and go all out. Like as an entrepreneur, when I am thinking about an idea, and as a Pan-Africanist in that framework, I ask myself, how does it benefit? What is the scalability of this throughout the continent? And I think that is a beneficial framework, because most of us, we like to build for our small cities, our small towns. But the Pan-African thought is how you can immerse your thinking to affect the entire continent, because the entire continent is intrinsically linked together.
Great. See, thinking about it with the way you are thinking about it, it's fantastic. Okay. I think commerce, economics, if we focus on that, will help the countries of Africa come together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the difficulty is, unfortunately, the kind of leaders some of our countries have. Okay. That's a big issue. I won't go into that on this podcast today.